Well, Helldivers 2 is dead, democracy has failed, but you know what won't fail? My service to the Emperor. Space Marines 2, a game that is basically the love child of Gears of War and Helldivers 2, there is one word that I think best describes this game. Steroids. No joke, I haven't seen this much HGH on my screen since baseball in the 90s. I mean, look at these guys. Literally everything about them just screams anabolic steroids and roid rage. It's also a game that literally puts most AAA games to shame. Like, look at this. When I first saw this massive horde of Tyranid scum coming towards me, I was like, oh, that's a cute little in-game cutscene. Then all of a sudden I realized that wasn't a cutscene, instead I'd be having to face all that, leading me to be like, Mama. And don't you dare think for a second that these Tyranids are just some easy cannon fodder, because their power is in numbers. They'll surround you and split you open like a coconut. They told me I'd be getting free college! You know what fun fact I learned? See these guys right here? They're called the Guardsmen. Do you know the life expectancy of one of these Guardsmen? It's 15 hours, which makes total sense because I'd see a group of these guys and I'd jump in. All of a sudden, after wiping the floor with some Tyranid and heretic scum, I'd turn around and be like, oh, they're all dead. Which I guess does make sense because if you pay attention to how the Guardsmen fight, they just charge in a battle like each of them are the main character, essentially making the Guardsmen a massive army of Carmines. And that's not to excuse the Space Marines from any criticism. You know what I notice about these guys? That they follow the trope of, if you have your helmet on, then you're dead. Meaning this guy, and this guy aren't going to make it.
Where is Elian?
The enemy tried to smother us. We got separated. By the time we had slain the attackers, Elian was dead. Something put a hole clean through his helmet.
I should have been with you.
I can't tell you a single thing that happens in the campaign, by the way. Like, what I understand is you play as Titus, a former Ultramarine turned Deathwatch turned Ultramarine, whose whole goal is to reprove his service to the Emperor by stopping the activation of Aurora. Beyond that, I can't tell you much, because I was so distracted by the, is that a flying Terminator, baby?
I'm not a gun. I'm lots of guns, duct taped together, with legs, and a boundless capacity for hatred.
At first I noticed that while the life of the Space Marine kinda sucks, with all that standing around that I noticed while exploring the battle barge, that this entire thing is basically like union work. One guy actually works, that being you, while the other three just stand there leaning on shovels. What I really enjoyed was the hacking and slashing system. The game's melee mechanics are extremely fun, even though I couldn't get the handle on that parrying system. Yet the reason I found it so enjoyable was the eventual payoff of earning myself an execution animation. God damn it, this game had a huge blood budget. There's a co-op campaign which can be fun, though I'd recommend playing with friends instead of randoms because, you know, fun. The thing I found the most interesting with this mode is you're not just playing as some random Space Marines doing some random missions, but instead as the other team that are on the same mission with you, giving you their perspective of what's going on during the same mission.
Etraculus, Erectus, with me.
Brother, where's Flacidius?
Flacidius fell in our last quest, brother.
He was too soft for this world.
The multiplayer at launch was pretty rough, mainly because of but the developers did a great job at fixing the servers quickly and delivering players probably one of the most fun multiplayers on the market currently. The multiplayer has 3 game modes where players are divided up into teams of 2 where they can pick one of 6 classes to play as. Only 2 players are allowed to play each class, and each comes with its own unique abilities and weapon sets. I went in thinking this was going to be like a Gears of War knockoff, and in certain ways it kind of does feel like that, but I feel like it's better than that. The maps feel easier to navigate, the class system does add a nice layer of balancing, and the overall gameplay it just feels fun with any sort of skill gap being pretty limited in my opinion. Space Marines 2 is a blast, and as it stands, the game is a Game of the Year contender, which I would really like to see happen. Because to me, Space Marines 2 is a perfect Game of the Year. It's very clear there's a lot of detail put into the game, like the game looks beautiful, with each massive set piece looking more horrifying and beautiful than the last. Combine that with the element of hordes of Tyranids running at you from a distance, only for them to pounce on you like a fumbled football, also add in the unbelievable cutscenes that will make your jaw drop. drop. And you have one of the most entertaining campaigns in the market. Gameplay is extremely fun and features a multiplayer that every filthy casual would love. The main thing though is if Space Marines 2 were to win Game of the Year, I feel like it would prove that games like this can work. One that ships with virtually no issues and contains a story mode, multiplayer, and cooperative mode is virtually unheard of these days. Because everything now is about battle passes, micro DLC, and we'll fix it later. Don't get me wrong, this game will have some of that eventually, but the developers clearly viewed a positive player experience as the more important thing here. Even with the post-launch content still keeping the player base in mind, and it all succeeds so well that if this game wins awards and sells well, maybe more studios will be inclined to look at games like this and shift business models. Instead of releasing unpolished trash, maybe they'll take their time going forward. And I think IGN says it perfectly for once, that it's an Xbox 360 game in the best way possible. With all that being said, please buy this game, as it's worth your $70. On a scale of slamming to jamming, Space Marines 2 is Elton John's Still Standing.